Hey everyone, it's Finn here with the NOLAnerdcast, live with my bestie from another mestie, Matt Stormageddon from Fun and Games podcast. How you doing, Matty?
Good. I'm excited to be here on the legendary NOLAnerdcast.
Some say, some do say.
Some do say.
It's just me. I'm the one that says it under different handles, but we'll see how it goes. And now today we're doing a little something different, per your request. Normally, instead of this being an interview about you, don't worry, I'm still going to ask you questions about you. It's also going to be our deep dive into 007 First Light, because the game is dope as shit.
Yeah, I was like, hey, are you planning on talking about this game? And you're like, I am now, which is always the best answer.
Isn't the bad like that? Turns out that's the fun thing about having your own show. The episode can be whatever the hell we want it to be about. It's great.
True. Yeah.
But before we start, I do want to get some of my standardized NOLAnerdcast questions out the way. Stormy, why are you so old?
Oh, that's rough. Considering you're as old as I am. Like,
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a nubile 22-year-old.
Yeah, you look it too with all that gray in your beard.
Wait, this is just so I don't get carded when I buy drinks.
You like draw.
I bought Touch of Gray.
Got it.
But it turns out if you use Touch of Gray when you don't have gray hair, it gives you a touch of gray. So
I see.
That's the big brain move, the galaxy brain.
Totally logical.
But no, honestly, what is your origin story? How did Stormy get into gaming?
This is funny because I feel like it's a self-serving question because you know the answer to this question. I mean, my origins with, I guess, because this isn't the games industry question. We'll get to that. But the origin in playing games is I was actually given by my mother a Atari 2600 for the youngins. Atari used to make video game consoles back in the day.
They made Pong.
And so my mom loved Pong. It was one of the few video games she ever played, but after she was kind of done with it, she gave me the Atari 2600 and like 3 games. We had Mousetrap, which is like a worse Pac-Man. It's instead you're a mouse running from cats, and when you eat cheese you become powerful. It was very bad. The E.T. game and Superman. If you want to play the worst Superman game ever, which is saying something, play the Superman game for Atari. You had to I
gotta look this up. I'm looking
find
at it. Oh my god, no.
You had to find pieces of the phone booth and put the phone booth together, and then you could become Superman. And then
it's true, because you couldn't turn into Superman without walking into a phone booth. Don't you know anything about Superman?
I mean, I do. And so this was like the first console I was ever given, but I didn't really get into gaming until I got an NES. My brother had one already, I believe, and I really wanted one. So my parents got me an NES with the combo Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt cartridge, a zapper, and one controller. And it was kind of that was my intro to wanting games of my own. And I'd say the video game that made me a gamer, capital G gamer, as we like to say around here.
That's right.
Is which Finn will know, was Chrono Trigger. When I finally played Chrono Trigger on the SNES, I went, oh, video games can have stories. They can be super good and massive and have all of the storytelling. And so that's kind of my arc. And I've owned a ton of different consoles over the years, but it was the Atari got me kind of playing with games as the Atari got me playing with games as a toy. And it wouldn't be until the NES and the SNES that I really start to understand video games and become more of an enthusiast.
Okay. I dig it. See? Now, why don't we just dovetail right into what you thought I was going to talk to you about. And how did you get into the games industry? How did Fun Games Pod get its start?
So how I got my start in the industry and how Fun and Games started and Reignite, the 2 podcasts that I do, is a little different. So I started doing Fun and Games because Jen and I basically it was a bet or a dare by our spouses. We were all hanging out, me, my spouse, Sarah, Jen, and Jen's spouse, Sarah, at our apartment. And Jen and I were talking enthusiastically about video games quite loudly. And basically Jen's spouse was like, why don't the 2 of you go start a podcast or something? And we're like, all right, bet. And so we did, and did it for quite some time. But my foothold in the industry is actually thanks to you. When I first met you working under another podcast at the time, you and Derek Van Dyke, we had been friends because I was a fan of that podcast and was in the audience and would chat with y'all regularly on the internet. but we had become friendly through like Discord and through some other things. And when I came to that event, you showed me around. I ended up helping you film some content, and like we became. That's when I'd say the bestiness really started.
I'd agree. That's when the Matt duo was born.
But when I was there, you had already had kind of a foothold in the industry, had known a bunch of folks, and so introduced me to a ton of cool games folks who, unfortunately, most of them aren't in games anymore. But
Ain't that just the way it works?
Yeah, but that was like the stepping stone. Like once I met some of those folks and was chatting with them, and then kept chatting with you, you were like, well, it gave me like avenues like, oh, you can email these PR reps, sometimes they'll respond, sometimes you can get review codes, and like just started getting like into the right spaces to chat with more indie podcasters and chat with other game developers. And like I think where Funny Games really took off was getting a foothold in the indie game scene, which was your idea. There were a lot of studios that you were already a fan of and some that I was too, and kind of suggested pivoting that way because it's more accessible to especially new podcasts. And
exactly.
We started like making friendships with the different PR reps and studios, and now we have the following that we have and have had made the connections we have. So it was kind of born of like Finn gave me the 101 on how to kind of like establish yourself as an indie podcaster, and
this is my happy smile.
Yeah, your happy smile. And from there it was kind of easy. I mean, I would say that you basically taught me to just ask. Like, don't say no for someone. Like, ask. You never know what will happen, right? That's how you kind of meet new folks.
Don't be a jerk about it. If the answer is no, take it gracefully and try again later. Like the worst things I've ever seen, because people always forget that everyone in the industry talks to one another.
Yeah.
And so when you're an absolute ass to somebody, especially if you're told no and you just get all high and mighty about it, that gets around. Yeah. And I've always said, like, being able to take no gracefully is a skill, and people remember that. They're like, oh, you know what? Like, cool. Next time. I remembered how they handled themselves the last time, like that stuff gets remembered. People remember the really shitty and the really good. So
and you're right. And like, it's funny because Jen and I started with indie games and covering stuff from like Yacht Club, and I mean, Yacht Club was our white whale in the beginning because we were already fans of them. So the fact that we've been able to cover Mina and had Jake Kaufman on the podcast recently is like a real kind of like holy shit moment for us. But we've started getting like review codes. Like, I mean, we're going to talk about First Light. Jen and I got review codes for this. Like, and that's just not something that was common even a few years ago for us. But it's like what you said, like it's knowing the right people, but it's also like I love partnering with 47. I appreciate when they give us a review code, but they've said no to me plenty of times. And it's always like, okay, cool. No problem. Thanks for letting me know. And I think there's a great deal of respect for folks who can do that and understand that and realize at the end of the day, this is just games. Like, I love games, but like it's not that serious. There's other stuff to do and talk about, and you don't have to like, is it a bummer when you can't cover a thing you want to cover, or you have to wait to cover it? Sure. But like, it's not the end of the world.
Exactly. So speaking of, nice segue, 007 First Light, by IO Interactive, the makers of Hitman, which seems all like IP and studio match made in heaven style thing. And honestly, probably the most fun I've had with the IP since GoldenEye 64, hands down. But let's jump into it. You're the guest. How would you like to start? How would you like to structure our breakdown of why 007 First Light is so damn fun?
Well, it's funny you mentioned GoldenEye. I think maybe talking a little bit about our history with the Bond franchise, maybe as movies, and then like our history with the Bond games. Like for me, I grew up watching the Bond movies. The first Bond movie I saw of my own volition as a teenager was GoldenEye, because I was like, I think 12 or 13 when that movie came out, and Pierce Brosnan is very close to my heart as Bond. But as growing up, I also watched a bunch of Bond movies with my dad. The Connery ones for sure, the Roger Moore ones for sure. I've since over the years gone back, and I've basically since GoldenEye been a fan of Bond and seen every movie since. And then from the games, it's the same thing. Like, I really got heavy into gaming between SNES and N64, and like GoldenEye was like the game when I was growing up, because like it was multiplayer, it was fun to play with friends. It was the first it wasn't, but it was like one of the first person shooters on a home console that was like really accessible.
But I feel like it might not be the first, but it was definitely the first console one that I think truly blew up in that way.
Yeah, for sure. That felt more accessible. Like Halo also is important for the time, but I feel like Halo was for people who were fans of shooters. GoldenEye were for people who wanted to learn about shooters and like try one out, right? Because it had that James Bond arm ramp. But I had also played plenty of Bond games growing up, and then would go on to play a bunch of the games as they would come out over the years. And so I was a fan of Bond. And so when I heard that IO was making this game, I was excited. But I've also not really played any. I think I played Hitman Blood Money in the 360 era, and like I dabbled with stuff, but I didn't play the World of Assassination trilogy, which I will rectify now and do plan to play in the future. But like, so I was just kind of leery about it. But then I watched. I don't know if you're familiar with Nikki Jakey. He's a YouTuber who I'm a fan
I
of.
am not.
But he had posted, he'd gotten to go like to a press event and was posting like some preview footage and getting to see the game in action. I was like, oh, this game's not like Hitman. It's more of like an Uncharted kind of thing. Maybe I am interested in this. And then Jen and I were lucky enough to get review codes. So I've always had a love for Bond. And I think this game absolutely reinvigorated my love of the franchise for sure, which I was already a fan of.
So for me, you're in the same age bracket. So do you remember the TBS and then later Spike James Bond movie marathons? Where
Yes,
like over
absolutely.
Thanksgiving break, they would just play every James Bond. And so I would watch them with my dad. And so would see them a long time growing up. And then GoldenEye came out, and that was my first, like the one that I chose to go see type of
Mm-hmm.
one. And then the game came out, and that was just at the perfect time. The N64 was right around when I was having sleepovers with friends and playing games, and like having the 4-player, like we would just switch between Mario Kart 64, GoldenEye, and then eventually Smash. Those were like the three. We're all hanging out together over the weekend, sleepover party games. And I got so good at that game. And I remember, I'm sure you had it too, but everyone had a ban on Odd Job.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
because the aiming is not great. The vertical aiming is not great on the
Yeah.
fly. So having someone that you literally couldn't hit unless you moved your targeting cursor was frustrating to say the least. But there was so many game modes in that lent itself to such fun moments, like all golden guns, all slappers, all explosives, stuff like that. But yeah, then I tried to play other ones. Like I played like Agent Under Fire and Nightfire, and they never really grabbed me the same way. And I started going off in other games. So it wasn't until this game that I could say I truly got back, like enjoyed a James Bond game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for sure. Well, and I've said this because it's funny. This episode will come out around the same time as Funny Games is doing a retrospective on James Bond video games. We had Josh from Still Loading on, and then also talked about the new game. And like in that, I talked about how like I liked a lot of other Bond games, but it wouldn't be until playing this one that like I think. Well, first of all, this is hands down my favorite Bond game that I've ever played, but I think it's also my favorite Bond story ever. I think I like it better than any of the movies. And the movies are fantastic, but there's something special, I think, about this game, the way it handles narrative and gameplay that really made it, I think, one of my favorite Bond pieces of Bond media basically ever.
Okay. Break it down.
So, I mean, I think
putting ball in your court.
Making me do all the work on your podcast.
No, but like, so First Light, I think this might just be part my problem, but I feel like it kind of stealth dropped. Like I know it was announced, but I wasn't following it super well. And then I was like, oh wait, this game's coming out soon. And I like Hitman. So give me Hitman plus James Bond. I'll give it a shot. But then you're playing it and you're like, there's so much about it that just expands on, like, because Hitman is fun, but it's never had like a story that people would say best, like a great story for a game.
Right.
Like it has great moments, but it was more about the emergent gameplay that happened, and it had a loose story that Hitman Follows, but again, the plot of a Hitman game has never been the focus. That changed with this game, and I think it feels, the way I put it is, it's not a James Bond movie. It's is what if James Bond was turned into a prestige TV show, right?
Yeah.
Like, has a lot of buildup that it ends up paying off, and the buildup is good, but it's not like one of the movies or the traditional games where it's just action set piece, action set piece, action set piece. Um, there's a lot of slower moments that really build the whole thing up into this fantastic conclusion. So
Yeah, I mean, I think for me the reason this is so strong is because this isn't IO isn't adapting Bond into a video game. They built Bond as a video game from the ground up, right? Like this is a game that would have been fun to play no matter what character you are, but because it's the Bond universe, it enhances it. But it's just a really good like action adventure game that also happens to be about James Bond and
yeah,
makes you feel like the character too. You know, I think about with the combat, the improvisational nature of it, like the fact that in most other third person shooters with stealth, I like give up on stealth halfway through because I'm just bad at it.
and
But
just go
because
all out.
yeah, basically. But in this game, because the stealth sections were segmented and like if you contained a certain area, that's it. You were in stealth again. You could continue stealthing. It made you want to keep trying to like sneak around and get around certain enemies. And also the way the combat, like you never have a ton of bullets. You're always using a gun and tossing it away, and you can throw it at enemies. You can charge at enemies and start punching them and then take their gun. Like they never really, especially on the easier difficulties, which is what I played on, they didn't really penalize you for like going headfirst into combat. They wanted you to kind of feel not invincible, but kind of, you know, have that kind of luck of the dice roll that Bond always has in those situations where he's scrambling to do whatever, but always is capable, but not always precise, especially since this is meant to be kind of an origin story.
Yeah. Also, side note, I felt it so weird to me that he kept his scar the whole game. I
Yeah.
kept thinking that would go away. I'm like, I don't know if that's a great idea to have a very identifiable facial mark on you when you're trying to like bluff your way into places. Like, hey, you have the same scar, Mr. Cook, that the bellman had just half an hour ago. What's going on? Anyway, that's just my random aside. But I do love, like you said, the free flow combat, the between the stealth options, between the fist combat options, and the gun combat options. The combat in this game felt incredibly satisfying. Like I really loved, and especially when you add gadgets into the mix. Like I really loved hitting somebody into whatever's close by, right? And you can spam the shoulder button to like throw whatever is nearby, like coffee mug, uh why am I blanking on a pool ball, and then you get to them, and then you're hitting them with all the combos, you're doing all that stuff, but then you can also switch it up and use your watch to trigger so many things in the environment. And it was so much fun to figure out all the different ways to do that. And straight up, throwing a gun at somebody's head, picking up the gun they dropped, and then shooting them in the leg with it will never get old. It is so satisfying to just empty a clip into one enemy, toss it at the next guy, and use that, take his gun. And it's like a chain. You get into this flow state during these combat encounters, and it's just so fun in a way that I haven't felt in a while. Like other games like Uncharted or stuff, or Gears of War, or any of the third person cover based shooters, you're incentivized to never leave cover.
Yeah.
But in this game, not only incentivized, but you're kind of forced into it quite a lot.
Yeah, and I think it enhances what it feels like to kind of be Bond, kind of getting by the skin of his teeth, basically doing whatever it takes. And yeah, I mean, it's funny. I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, Dave Jackson. He asked me about the combat, and I was like, well, it actually kind of feels like a John Wick game in the sense that in the John Wick movies, like whenever he's fighting, it's never just a clean, like super smooth ride. He's always like scrambling for what's next, emptying a gun, then grabbing a thing and throwing a thing, and like those fights are frenetic in those movies. And this really felt like that. It had that kind of same freneticism that made it kind of always engaging. And I never like when I died, I never felt like it was the game. Like it always felt like it was my fault. Like I missed a thing, or I got hit too many times, or I got too overzealous out of cover, or whatever. It always felt like a good fit. And I never felt like there were some boss battles. The boss battles in this game, I think I don't love. But they handle them mechanically in a way that actually is very familiar to the Arkham games. Like, where there's
Mm.
like a thing you have to do, or there's like a strategy to them. You're not just fighting the enemies head on, which I did
Correct.
appreciate. But I agree. I think that there's something special about this combat. And considering I've not played the Hitman games, but I'm familiar with how they work, the fact that there's no right way to get through a section that, besides I think the nightclub scene at the beginning of the game, and even that one, there are multiple paths. They let you kind of decide, do you want to go head on? Do you want to sneak? Do you want to follow someone into the bathroom? Do you want to, right? Like they give you
Yeah.
options. Do you want to steal someone's key card? And that
Well,
continues to be
especially
the
like during
case.
the marketplace segment where you have to raise enough money to enter an auction. And they
Yes.
give you so many different ways to go about doing that. There is no one correct path.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
I think that freedom is what really made me love the game so much. And then it's the graphics, the motion capture, the acting. Like I think the actor they got to play
Oh, yeah.
Bond does a stellar job. The whole cast is really phenomenal.
Yeah.
And like so the thing
Greenway.
that's Greenway was incredible. I think the thing that sold me on this game is we're gonna, I think, try not to spoil like major
Correct. I
story
don't want to.
stuff.
Yeah, I don't want to get into story spoilers if possible.
But there's a segment at the very beginning of the game that has been shown online before and is often cited as like the entry point, like great entry point for this game, and why it's special is there's a montage, a training
I was
montage at
just
the
like,
beginning
yep.
of the game.
Mm.
And so like, like any Bond origin story or like any origin story, like it's showing him training in the MI, the double O program. And the way they teach you the controls for the game is via montage, and like they'll show you how to throw the basic punches, and then on like the third punch, like the camera will spin, and then Bond's doing something at night. You're suddenly in a car driving, and like first of all, it shows the power of the PS5, which is what I played it on. Like the fact that there was no load times, that it just jumped to these different segments was flawless. But they turned a film montage into a mechanical tutorial. And I think it's one of the most impressive things about this game.
100%. I will be talking about this tutorial segment for years to come. It is probably one of the most impressive visually, cinematically, and mechanically put together training sequences in a game I've played in a long time. I'm going to pause this real quick. I got to take Ace out. He's had an upset stomach all day.
Okay,
So,
no worries.
But yeah, that training montage is one of the best I've ever played, and I don't think it'll be topped anytime soon.
No, and it's such a unique take for a tutorial, right? Because these games, tutorials can drag, feel kind of, especially if you're familiar with these kinds of games, it can feel really, frustrating or boring or whatever. But they made it really interesting and drag it out over a longer period of time in the world of the game, but it doesn't feel that long for the player. And I think that's what was really smart about it. And they integrated into the narrative to warm you up to the other characters, to make the story hit a little harder as you go too.
Yeah. 100%. And it also was such a great way to quickly introduce you to a bunch of his, associates.
Yeah. And like what I love about this game is that, again, without like spoiling the main narrative, they set the stakes pretty easily. And like, again, I think the better Bond movies are the ones where you feel for certain characters or feel for like there's a heart to the story. And this game does that really well, establishing the other 000 agents, establishing Greenway, who's integral to the story,
establishing the basic antagonists and giving reasonable logical reasons why we're globetrotting. Like, why are we suddenly in a new set piece in a new area? Like, why are we going from a frozen tundra to a Vietnamese like luxury resort to an Eastern European auction, or a chess match? It was all just done really well. So many different ways to explain why we were going where we were going.
Yeah, the suspension of disbelief was pretty easy for a lot of it too. Like it all felt pretty organic. I will say I think that my biggest downside to the game is that some of the characters kind of feel out of place. I love Lenny Kravitz like as much as the next person, but his character felt kind of superfluous. It was a cool thing, and I think
Yeah,
it's if you can get Lenny Kravitz, why wouldn't you use Lenny Kravitz, right? And
sure.
I know they're doing DLC with the character later, so all of that. But like that was the only thing that kind of stood out to me. Most of the rest of the narrative fit really well. And again, while I don't want to spoil anything in the narrative, the main crux, the main villain, and like the broader story that it's telling is so relevant and impactful to right now, I think also is what drew me in. Like, and the Bond's always been good at that, right? A lot of Bond movies have reflected the times. And so I think it reflecting um the modern way technology and AI is being handled and
Yeah.
how that incorporates into this game and why AI is important in this, I think is and has something to say about how they feel about it as well, which I think is also really great and important.
I agree. It wasn't just like it felt um it's not the first time we've had a major spy franchise utilize AI in its narrative. What with the latest fall Mission Impossible movies,
Right.
it makes sense. You live in this world now where facial recognition, AI, and everything makes being a spy so much harder. So, or even being a bad guy is so much harder because you can't hide anymore. So it's fascinating to see how they use it in a story component.
Yeah. I think also this game wasn't afraid to be like lean into the tropes of Bond. I mean, when the credits start and we get that awesome Lana Del Rey song and it's basically an intro to like a Bond movie, like that blew me away. I was like, "Ah, okay, we're really doing it now. We're really in this."
It was, I loved all the, so I also love how they just flat out don't tell you, does this take place after existing James Bond stuff
Yeah.
or is it its own universe? But I love all the little Easter eggs and nods in the Q area and just all the other places that hint at other things that happen in classic James Bond scenarios. But
Yeah.
having this new generation James Bond, I thought was a really smart way to do it, but not treating it like an origin of the classic James Bond. It's just it's 2026 and they're restarting the Double O program, and this James Bond just happens to be part of this new class of Double O agents.
Yeah, and we don't and like his name is James Bond and like we don't know if like he's the only James Bond, is this a new James Bond? Like they don't bother. They just let
Yeah,
us,
it
because
tells its story.
yeah. And I think not getting hung up in the lore of it all, I think is the best move to do with this. I think that you can easily, I love the Star Wars universe and I love a lot of the newer games, but I think where they fail is when they get bogged down in their own lore and like worry about being consistent. Like, I think the
Yeah,
reason Outlaws as a story worked really well for me is because it wasn't that concerned. Like it was concerned about the broader history, but like let you exist in this world and kind of mess it up and get into trouble
exactly.
and discover things. And I think that's what's great about this Bond game as well, is that you kind of get to explore that world without worrying about like, is it canon, does it screw anything up? Like it just was what it was and like was pretty matter of fact about it.
And one of my favorite little fun facts about this game is that this is one of the first times in James Bond's entire history that the phrase His Majesty's Secret Service is used, because the first James Bond book was written and released the year after Queen Elizabeth became the Queen.
Yeah.
And this is the first major James Bond uh, property to drop since her death.
Yeah.
And so they when they say the phrase His Majesty's Secret Service, it's literally like the first time that's ever happened in a James Bond property. And I think that's crazy to think about.
That is kind of
That
wild.
James Bond exists in its entirety throughout the lifespan of Queen Elizabeth as queen.
That's true. I hadn't even thought of that. That completely rolled off. But now that you pointed out, that's actually really incredible.
It's such a fun little like thing to like, because it hit me. I was like, boy, that sounds weird.
Uh
And then
huh.
I had to stop and I was like, huh, yeah, no, that's a thing. Looked it up and everything.
That's
That's fun.
incredible. Yeah. Yeah, this game is full of little things like that, and I think it's well, so and this actually brings to a good point. The attention to detail, I think, is the best thing about this game. Like, as much as I love the story and the gameplay and everything else, it's the little details, like we were talking earlier about the combat and how you can pretty much grab anything that's not nailed down and throw it at enemies to, like, distract them or whatever, but just, like, when you're exploring, like, a security office, or you're in the hotel for where the chess match is, or any of those places, like, every time you go into a room, there's not just like the same table and chairs copy and
Yeah,
pasted.
right.
Like, every room is meticulously arranged, because also, like, or when you go into a supply closet, or even when you're in Q Lab, right? Like, there's the phone booth that locks you in. There was the motorcycle with the flamethrower. Like,
Yep.
you know, the car that James is begging to drive the entire game. Like, all of that stuff is just so, like, it's clear IO not only like loved this franchise, but wanted to do it justice and wanted to put enough stuff in here to make you feel immersed in it. I think it's what I've heard is the best thing about the Hitman games is that when you're running around as Agent 47, it feels like a living, breathing world because of that
Yep.
attention to detail. And they clearly continued to do that here with James Bond.
Yeah, they did not just do copy pastes on a bunch of rooms. It didn't feel every level felt lovingly crafted. It was
Yeah.
awesome. It
Yeah.
just and then especially when you factor in figuring out how to pull off your objectives. The game doesn't handhold you either. It's fascinating. I love it. You'll just be told this is what you need to do, and then they just let you figure out how you want to do it. And there's more often than not multiple ways to go about doing that. And you can use your gadgets because not everyone brings the same gadgets to the same missions. You're only allowed like eventually 3 gadgets, but the gadgets that you bring dictate what you can do. Do you bring the dart phone that allows you to poison and like make people nauseous so you can pickpocket them easier or move past them? Do you bring the laser that allows you to like knock out enemies, like weapons out of their hands, or like interact with different things in the world, like blowing off a lock from a grate so you can access it? Do you bring the camera that sends out a shockwave? Like there's so many different ways to approach stuff just via the gadgets. And I think it's always fun when they give you the tools.
Yeah, I mean, I think the place I struggle with most stealth games and why I like games like this and the Arkham games or even the Spider-Man games when they have stealth segments is because they let good games that give you the tools to do whatever you want make it easier for someone like me who is notoriously terrible at being stealthy. And like the best part about this game also is typically in most games when you screw up a stealth encounter, that's it. You're discovered and you either have to fight your way out or start over.
Yeah,
Because you're James Bond and James Bond is knowing for bullshitting his way through everything, you can earn like basically power up to bluff a certain amount of times per like area, and sometimes you can just get past a guard by going, oh my bad, I'm actually here to like inspect the closets, I need to go, I'll be right out, and then walk past them. And like I love that I had that freedom to fall back on, so if I really screwed up a thing I was trying to do, I could just hit the triangle button and do that. Also the fact that it was just an objective, and they would, like, as you found clues, they would like give you in your quest log possibilities. They never made you
yeah,
do anything. And so like if I wanted to pickpocket a nauseous woman who got sick on the ride up to a Alaskan base, I could kind of like wander around, make the 2 guards nauseous, they wander away, and then pickpocket her and leave. Like, it just really is a game that, like, I know that the Hitman games have been like told to, like, I've been told they're like playgrounds to like just kind of do whatever you
100%.
want. And like I totally see that here, but I do like that this had some guardrails, and like there weren't 1,000 paths. There were like
Yeah.
10
Well, it
paths. And
felt
you
really
could,
good because they gave you the Hitman vibes and the experience, but they still made it like a structured experience, right? Like there was still enough ways to do things in different ways, but not so many ways that you miss the the curated experience that they wanted, because it's still a cinematic James Bond experience,
yeah.
even though certain areas are bigger.
Yeah, I think this game's strength is that it's leaning into an era of gaming that we don't see as much. As much as I love the Sony AAA experience, the God of Wars, the Last of Us's, the Horizons, they all are a certain type of kind of open world game, right? That are also really heavy. And while this game has heavy moments, it's not afraid to be funny. It's not afraid to be lighthearted. It took me back to the more popcorny era of the Uncharted games, like where it's more about the adventure and the experience. And then they tie in some of the narrative stuff as well. And it still has that punch in that heart. But it just felt more it felt lighter than a lot of games lately, especially AAA games, and I loved that about it too, that it wasn't afraid to be a little goofy and a little silly, and let you do those goofy and silly things, whether it's in the combat of the story or whatever.
Yep. I mean, there's so much care put into all the different facets of this game, and it's been a while since I've played a game that felt this lovingly crafted without feeling bloated, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. Because
Yeah,
that's the thing, like it's not a short game, but the game also doesn't overstay its welcome.
yeah,
You And then even after you complete the campaign, they've added modes and stuff to keep you playing just from a pure gameplay perspective. But you don't lose anything or miss out on anything, and I'm happy for that. Like they didn't shoehorn in the multiplayer co-op aspects into the actual game. They're just like, hey, it's there if you want to have fun with the game. It's part of it. Do some challenges, unlock some stuff, have fun. But the actual core content is just going to be a very like well-paced, perfectly lengthed James Bond experience.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think it's really one of those things that like a lot of AAA studios can kind of get in and over their head as far as like needing to add every single kind of thing into a game. And thankfully, this game doesn't really do that. It really does let it be that single player experience. I played this and God of War Ragnarok back to back because
Oh, that's an interesting combo.
yeah, I was recovering from surgery and I was like, I was excited about Lao Fei. And I was like, I never played Ragnarok. Should really sit down and play it. And like playing them back to back, I noticed a lot of things. I think Ragnarok is a fantastic game. I think that the hate for it is overblown. I think people don't like sad dad stories, and that's fine. I wept like a baby at the end of that game.
So good.
But like, it was interesting to see the way added side quests in that game, most of which I didn't do. They weren't bad side quests, but they did feel kind of like, oh, here's an extra thing to go do to get some more money or more materials so you can make more stuff. They never felt integral to the plot. Whereas because Bond is kind of a straight line, there were little offshoot things here. There was the tax sim that you could do and stuff. But for the
Yep.
most part, you were on the path. There were a few side quests in each mission that you could do, but you were mostly on a straight path. It just felt like it had a better sense of flow. In Ragnarok, I ignored most of those side quests, so they weren't much of a hindrance to me. But the game did every so often go like, "Hey, here's a thing. Go do you should go
Yeah.
do the thing." And it's like, why? Like, and I knew I just wanted the main story, and that's fine. And I was able to play it that way. But it just was interesting to see those two games so close together because IO really didn't get steeped in like we need to put extra stuff to keep people playing. They were just like, we're going to tell this story. We're going to add a couple of side quests if people want to do a little extra stuff, but for the most part, we're going to just keep them on the ride until they get to the end.
Yep. Now, without spoiling, what is your favorite sequence in the game? Because
I
I
mean,
already know mine.
besides the montage,
Besides the
um,
training montage, of course.
um, man, there's so many good ones. There's so many good ones.
Would it help if I go first?
Yeah, why don't you go first? Because I got to
The
think about it.
airplane sequence.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I think I really like the nightclub scene. I like it because of how it works mechanically and because it's you with your double O team members working together. And that I thought there was only one path through. And then I was talking to Josh about it on our Funny Games episode. And Josh was like, oh, I didn't do that. I did this whole other thing. I was like, oh,
Isn't that
really?
fun?
Like the fact that it's so curated that you think you're doing the only possible option and then you find out there are like three other paths or more, like that's so fun. And so yeah, and it really sets the bar, I think, for the game of like this is the kind of thing to expect.
Yeah. It's just so good.
Yeah,
I'm also so glad that it was a big success.
me
Like right
too.
out the gate, it
Yeah,
I wasn't paying any much attention to it. Again, I wasn't following it because I didn't. I was it just kind of might as well have stealth dropped for me. I was so surprised. Like I had it pre-ordered because I was excited about the concept and the team, but and then I promptly forgot about it until it was almost out, and then it was just such a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, same. I mean, I was following it a little bit, but again, because I hadn't played the Hitman games and I always felt like they might be too hard for me, which now I'm convinced is not the case. But like, I had that vibe of like, oh, I'm not great at like, I'm a dum dum when it comes to puzzles. And because I had heard that the Hitman games were basically giant puzzles, I was always turned away from them. I'm definitely going to like get over myself and play them after loving this. But like, I agree. I think it's just it's such a like it was one of those games where, and this doesn't happen a lot, where I'm playing it, I'm going, this is a great game, right?
Yeah,
Usually I'm just immersed, but like I was kind of out of myself a little bit, like, oh my god, this is such a great game. And you're talking about how it did well and the performance, and like the only thing that worries me is like Amazon. Like I found out that,
yeah,
so basically, for those who don't know, Amazon owns the rights to this, and like they gave the license to IO to make this one game. There's no contract, there's no like series. It's this one game, and Amazon then now can go to a different studio to make a different game. And so there's a
or
world.
or even if they give it back to IO, they'll meddle more into it because
Right.
now they're like, I my fear is that they look at the tax sim stuff and go like, no, we need more of this. Turn 007 into a games as a service. Like
Yeah.
we need monetization. I'm just like, oh, because they're going to. They
Yeah.
can't help themselves.
And like, so it worries me. Like, I was hoping that IO, especially considering, like, again, with no spoilers, the game ends in a cliffhangery way that like there's more to come, right? Which, shocker, they left it in a way that Bond can go on more adventures. I don't think that's much of a spoiler, but like playing that, finishing the game, and then going, oh, I'm so excited for when they do the next one, and then reading, oh wait, they're not actually guaranteed to do the next one. That makes me nervous because we've had many game series where they end like that and then we never get to see what the follow-up will be. And like you said, I'm just convinced Amazon's going to meddle and then we're not going to be able to get the same thing. Hopefully whoever's running that department looks at how successful this was and was like, just let them do it again.
That would
Because
be the ideal situation. Just hands off, let them work their magic. There's a reason they are good at what they do,
yeah,
and just let it be. But
yeah.
we know that's just not how our current gaming industry operates.
No. And like I'm a big Uncharted fan, and as much as I love The Last of Us, and I do love both of those games, and I'm excited for Galactic. I think it's called
Intergalactic.
Intergalactic. Like I'm sure that'll be great. Like I'm yearning for another Uncharted so badly because I love that series. And this filled that void. I mean, I should just go play Lost Legacy again, the best Uncharted game ever made. Fight me.
Fact.
Yeah,
Two is still
Chloe.
my favorite, but Lost Legacy is the superior game.
Yeah, and Chloe is one of the best characters in the series. I love her, and I want another game starring her. But anyway, like, and so I'd been missing that, and like, there are other games that have filled that void a bit. Like I mentioned, Outlaws earlier, Star Wars Outlaws, which kind of filled that void a little bit. But nothing had felt so reminiscent of what the trilogy of Uncharted games made me experience until I played this game. It had that same vibe of just like adventure and storytelling and like, go momentum. Like, yeah, I really want more of this. And like, I'm just gonna keep my fingers crossed that they get to make another one because I want the Bond trilogy that IO has planned. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sure they want to make more Hitman games too, but like if they just went on a run of Bond games, I'd be a happy camper. Because again, narratively, this is up there with one of my favorite Bond stories ever told. I think it's a great origin of the character, and I'm excited to see him in the modern age, right? Because they did such cool stuff with it here.
Yeah, when you say that, I would agree. I think I'm hard pressed to find James Bond movie plots that hit me as good as this game one. I think again, part of that is from the benefit of having the time to really stretch its legs and tell a story and get you so invested in side characters more than you normally would. Because
Yeah,
then the story beats that occur with them hit better, like the new Money Penny, the new M, the new Q, all fantastic.
yeah, and like there are plenty of games with incredible acting, but there's just something about, because this is also grounded Bond always has a tiny bit of a supernatural element, and there's that in this game. But for the most part, it's grounded performances, grounded characters, grounded actors, and like it's just such a fun thing to see, especially like I said, having played a bunch of these other fantastical games with larger than life characters, which are also great and have great acting in them. But it's a different level, and like it
Mhm.
was just fun to see those performances and those like there are tons of performances between Bond and Greenway in this game that like the arc they go through together, I think is really
I think I
masterfully
think
crafted.
I think their character arc and like I'm trying to why am I blanking on the word? Their collective growth
Yeah,
is fantastic.
yeah, agreed.
It's such a fun relationship from start to finish. It just is. I love it. Um yeah, man, 007 First Light, it's just damn good.
Yeah. If it didn't come out this year, if it came out any other year, it'd probably be my game of the year. But it has a
But
lot of stiff competition this year.
this is a good, yeah, solid year so far.
Yep.
Like so I think for me, even though I can't quite rank it yet, I would be shocked if it didn't make my top 10 list this year.
Oh yeah, same. It's definitely in my top 10 list this year. And I would be shocked if anything knocked it off because it's pretty high up. I mean, so for my top 10, like I have a list I keep all year. It's currently in my top 5 at number 5, but like and it does have to compete with Control, a sequel to one of my favorite games of all time, and Wolverine, one of my favorite comic book characters of all time. So like there's a chance it'll fall down the list, but there's no way it won't be in my top 10 for sure.
Yep. It's oh, everyone should go play it. Just
Yeah.
enjoy it. I'm excited for hopefully this holiday when we get like the holiday price cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Like we might get like a $29.99 sale or I guess a $39.99 sale. Whatever half of a video game is now. I don't even know anymore. Time means nothing. That my hope is that more people play it and it gets a
Me too.
second wave of like attention this year.
Yeah. I want it to become an unmitigated success, which I think it mostly is. But like, I think the fastest way for Amazon to not meddle is for it to just like break records. And that way they'll just let IO do whatever they're going to do. I will definitely be day one for whatever IO does next, whether it's another Bond game or a new Hitman game. Like,
Yeah.
they've made a fan out of me, and now I'm definitely going to go back and play the back catalog. I think I own World of Assassination already on like Epic or something, and so I will definitely go back to it. Although considering how pretty this game looks on the PS5, I might be just tempted to buy it on the PS5 anyway, just to
It's
play it
good
on
on
there.
console.
Yeah.
100%.
But yeah, I'm definitely a fan of IO's work now. It's kind of crazy that it's taken me this long to be a fan because they've been around for so long, but this definitely made me one, and I'm definitely interested in whatever they do next, whether it's Bond or otherwise.
So I do want to pivot back to you
Okay.
before we close out because I want to know what is it currently in your life, and it doesn't have to be gaming. This is just a generalized Matt Stormageddon question. What's bringing you joy in your life in 2026?
Oh, what a great question. I mean, games, obviously, like that's kind of the thing. I'm actually excited because as of when we're recording, tomorrow I'm launching a brand new Patreon exclusive series on fun and games that I'm going to be doing monthly. And so I'm excited about that. It was the first solo podcast I've recorded in a while. So that's really exciting. And that brought me a lot of joy to get to work on that thing. So I'll leave a little tease for that. But TV, movies, I'm excited as of when we're recording. This weekend I'm gonna get to see the new Spider-Man movie, and I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I'm excited for Brand New Day. And I've been watching, I don't know if you've watched X-Men 97 yet.
I haven't seen the new season.
So I started the new season, and like
Anna has one episode left of season 1.
Yeah,
we're gonna start season 2.
But I mean, it's bringing me joy in the sense that it's going to break my absolute heart since the first season did that. But I've been loving that. And then the biggest thing that I think brings me the most joy right now is I'm a big Dropout fan. Game Changer, make some noise. And currently we're in the middle of the new Game Changer season. And I just watched the new episode yesterday, and I won't spoil it for folks who maybe haven't seen it, but it was, and I feel like I say this every week now, it was the most unhinged episode I've ever seen of Game Changer. but I feel like I'll just say that again
That
next
poor
week.
PA.
Oh man, that poor PA. It was so good. And like, I like when Sam is at his most twisted, which I don't know what that says about me, but
Right.
it's just pure joy. So yeah, those are some of the things. And then like music, I recently saw the Ariana Grande concert when she was in New York, and that was mind blowing. Like if you want to see a show stopping performance, that's like, she's just incredible. Dabbling in a lot of little things, bringing me joy.
That's awesome. I love it. That's it's just fun to hear what's bringing people joy in life, because there's so little of it right now. It's so, especially in our industry, it's so
Yeah.
hard sometimes. And that's why I stopped having my show be about the weekly news,
Hmm.
because so many people are talking about it. So many people have smarter, more nuances takes than I do,
Yeah.
and I'd rather just focus on what still brings people happiness, because this is still a medium in an industry that brings joy to a lot of people, despite all of its attempts to the contrary. But yeah, it's just fun to sometimes just focus on the good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the ethos of fun and games, right? It's like we dive into some of the harder topics in games, of course, and want to bring light to the harder parts of the industry. But mostly, we just want to celebrate games and celebrate people's love of games. I think it's very easy to get bogged down by the negativity on the internet, especially,
Yeah.
and so like wanting to have resources and paths for positivity and just celebrating things, like that's, I think, the best thing we can do right now to fight back against what we're going through, because it's very easy to get bogged down in despair and not want to do anything. And I think pushing for joy is a really important part of the fight.
There's a time and a place for both.
Yeah.
So, yay, go team. First of all, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for
It's,
having me. It's very weird for us to be talking on a podcast, honestly, because
it
you and I
is.
talk almost every week, not on a
Yeah.
podcast, and you're one of my few friends I don't always talk to on a podcast. So it's kind of nice.
Hey, it's a nice mix up, and then I'll be seeing you in like a month and a week
Yeah,
for PAX
PAX
West Live.
West.
Heck
Yeah,
yeah!
yeah. The three musketeers will be reunited.
Heck yeah! I'm very excited.
Yeah, it'll be a
It's
good
gonna be
time.
fun. Oh, good times. All right. Do you? Oh, wait, duh. Why don't you end by telling everyone where they can follow you and your content and your awesome podcast?
Thank you. Yes, so the best place to find me online is Blue Sky, djstormageddon.com, or Instagram, DJ_Stormageddon. If you want to check out my podcasts, you can go to djstormageddon.com, and I have links to both Reignite and Fun and Games, as well as the Patreon for Fun and Games. The Patreon you can join for free. And then if you join at any of the paid levels, you get a little something extra, but you can vote in our polls for our console retrospectives and see all my written articles that I do every month. Finn edited my article last month for Mina the Hollower, which I was really grateful for.
What?
But all of that is free to start, as well as the main show and side quests. And then any extra content is what all of the base stuff you get at no charge. So definitely worth checking out. Yeah. And if you're going to be at PAX West in September, come find me. I'll be hanging out covering the show along with my co-host Jen and Jen's spouse, Sarah.
Yay! Go team. But yeah, thank you very much, Matt. As always, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Thanks, bud. This was a blast.